Oke, Prof. Udah pindah, Prof.
Udah.
Oke. Itu ada kegiatan tadi. Lanjut.
Siap, siap. Oke, thank you very much.
kedua, organisasi merupakan salah satu unsur yang tidak dapat dipisahkan dalam suatu lembaga organisasi, baik itu lembaga pemerintah maupun lembaga swasta. Stres kerja merupakan suatu tanggapan adaptif dibatasi oleh perbedaan individual dan proses psikologis, yaitu konsekuensi dari setiap kegiatan atau lingkungan, situasi atau kejadian eksternal yang membebani tuntutan psikologi atau fisik yang berlebihan terhadap seseorang di tempat individu itu berada. Komitmen organisasi. Komitmen adalah sesuatu yang membuat seseorang membulatkan hati, bertekad, dia bertanggung jawab demi mencapai tujuan dirinya dan tujuan organisasi atau perusahaan yang telah disepakati atau telah ditentukan sebelumnya.
Ini baru mulai. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Halo.
Hello, good afternoon.
Selamat sore.
Selamat sore, Justin. Halo, Dila. What the Miss Indrawari?
We are not rich yet. Okay, I will contact.
Okay.
It's okay. I can just wait, but you can hear me all right? It's okay?
Okay, good.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, good.
Yeah.
Can I
voice-
try to share my just the first slide to see if my video is okay?
Okay. Pak Fajri,
Just-
make Miss Justin as host.
Okay, right.
Thank you.
Justin.
Well,
Terima kasih.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, you are now as a host. You can share your okay, it's run.
It's okay?
It's okay, I
Okay.
can see.
Okay, I'll stop sharing now. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Masih pakai.
Gracias, como valero, todas las
Temukan diri menyambut pagi, membuang sepi. Izinkanlah aku kenal sejenak perjalanan. Oh, oh, oh. Dan
ASMR videos. ASMR refers to comforting sensations.
Hello, good afternoon, Ms. Justin. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Justin. And then, hello, Mr. Vice Dean, Dr. Endriza. Good afternoon, Mr. Endriza.
Oh, good afternoon, Dr. Muharja. How are you?
Fine, I'm fine.
Hi, Justin. Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Hi, hello. Nice to meet you too, sir, Dr. Muharaj.
Okay. Hello, Ms. Dr. Indrawati. Good
Hi,
afternoon.
everyone. Afternoon.
Okay, right.
Hi,
Hi,
Dr. Indra.
Justine. Nice to meet you.
I miss you.
Halo Pak Ari. Pak Dia.
Okay, and then Mrs. Rawi. Hello, Rawi. Rawia. Have you monitored Miss Rawi? Hello. Okay, we have the 5 minutes before to start this seminar, and then we must invite Mr. Dan. Hello, Mr. Hafrizal.
Dr. Enjal,
Hey, hello.
it's Taufik from Aceh. Dear.
I know you. Hi,
How are
Taufik.
you? Long time.
Fine.
Alhamdulillah.
Long time haven't seen you, Mr. Taufik.
Yeah. Inshallah, if the pandemic is over, I need to visit Padang one time.
Inshallah.
And maybe you might visit Aceh one time.
Sure.
Nice seminar series.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Hafrizal, Dr. Hafrizal Hanapan. Good afternoon, Mr. Hafrizal.
Hello, everybody. Hello,
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Justin. Yeah.
Justine. Yes.
Justin. Yeah. Good afternoon.
Okay, we have the 4 minutes before we start this meeting. We got Rovia. Yeah. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. In this good opportunity, I would like to express my thanks for your attention. The first, the Honorable to Dr. Enriza Ridwan, Vice Dean Economic Faculty Universitas Andalas. Hello, Mr. Enrizal.
Hi.
Then, and then thanks for all our speaker. The first, Miss Justin PhD from the University Philippines. And then that's the second speaker, second speaker, please, Miss Rovia from the University Analyst, the PhD student in economics. And then she a lecturer at the Fatoni University, Yala, Thailand. And then last speaker, Dr. Hafrizal Handra, the senior economist, University Andalas, Indonesia. Before we start this seminar, I would like to say hello for all participants in this seminar. We have the participant from any university in Indonesia, Thailand, and Philippines. For example, I would like to say to the participant from the Universitas Shah Kuala Banda Aceh. Hello, good afternoon. And then from Medan, we have the participant from Medan, from the Padang, Riau, from the Universitas Riau, from Bengkulu, and from Java, we have the participant from the Mula Warman in Kalimantan, and then we have the participant from the Universitas Jenderal Sudirman in Java. We have the participant from BPK, as well as the Board of Financial Auditors. And then from BPS, Board of Statistical Center of Indonesia. And from Samratulangi, we have the participant from Samratulangi, Manado in North Sulawesi Island. Okay, thanks for all of you Today, our moderator on this seminar, Ms. Indrawari, PhD. Hello, Mrs. Indrawari. Good
Hi,
afternoon.
good afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we start the seminar, we asked to Vice Dean and Ridwan to give opening remark for the 5 minutes more. Okay, so, please, Mr. Ridwan.
Okay, thank you, Fajri. Shalom, peace be upon you. So may the mercy of Allah and His blessings. Justin of the University of Philippines, Hafrizal Handra from Andalas University, Indonesia, and Rawia Asing Bramai from Patani University, Thailand, and to all of our guests, welcome. My name is Andrizal Ridwan, Vice Dean for Academic Affairs at this at Faculty of Economics, Andalas University. And it is my privilege and pleasure on behalf of the Dean and all members of the Faculty of Economics to welcome you here in Zoom meeting today. We are delighted to have you with us to participate and share in our fourth Andalas Economic Seminar Series. And thank you for coming. That many of you present today from all over the places serve as the reminder to us how important is this seminar is. Faculty of Economics, Universitas Andalas, is committed to actively raising the quality of research and publication to achieve an international recognition. So this year is our 63rd anniversary on the 7th of September, to be exact. And this year we have our theme is strengthening economic condition at the time of pandemic. And as the pandemic is all over and no country can overcome its impact by itself, so we need collaboration. Today's seminar is one small step toward an excellent collaboration between the Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand. We are honored to have Justin, Hafrizal, and Rawia with us today. All the three are esteemed economists in each country. So prepare yourself to be challenged, excited, and inspired. And before I hand over to Ibu Indrawari, our chairwoman and also our department chair, who will outline the day's event, I want to say once more, on behalf of the Faculty of Economics, welcome. It is wonderful to see so many of you here. Thank you very much. Peace be upon you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Andrizal. And thank you very much. Next, please, Ms. Indrawari, to handling this meeting. Please come.
All right, so we just go ahead and started the seminar. Mr. Muharja, are we going to go through with the seminar directly?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It is nice to have all of you here, and then it is a great opportunity to have the seminar today. This topic is actually very interesting because the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has affected over, if we can, maybe it's going to be increasing, but it's affected over 180 countries and infected more than 6 million people around the world and killed more than 500,000 lives until now. And maybe it will keep going on. Okay, and this pandemic, if we read from the newspaper, also has an impact at the healthcare system, even the way we teach, the educational system, all right, businesses and economy. And this pandemic also led to job losses, disrupted social life. Everybody has to be locking down. We have physical distancing and other measures. All these things aim at this, at containing the virus. All right. But one thing for sure, okay, with such a crisis, people will turn to the government. Okay, that's why we are talking about the role of the government today. Even though, okay, even though they have same things to do like locking down, but every country has their own way to solve with this pandemic. That's why we are here today to see how different government in each country. Well, today we only have 3 countries, and then fortunately we are in Asian country. How these 3 countries respond to different way, the government respond different way to this pandemic. And we have 3 distinguished speakers today. I am going to read their short CV, okay? Started with Mr. Hafrizal Handra, all right? He graduated undergrad from Bandung Institute of Technology, and then he has his master degree at Birmingham University in UK, and then he graduated PhD at Flinders University in Australia. Second speaker today, it's Justin Diagnosika, PhD. She used to be my classmate in University of the Philippines. He graduated from University of the Philippines. He has 2 master's degree in business and in economics, and he has PhD in business economics and PhD candidate in economics. And the last speakers today, but not the least, okay, it's Miss Rovia Asengbaramae. She is my student at PhD program in Andalas University, and she graduated also undergrad in Andalas University, and then graduated undergrad in Thailand. So let's just go to our talk today, and then I hope everyone will have an interesting question after all these 3 speakers give their sharing their experience, or their sharing what government experience in his country. Let's start with Mr. Hafrizal Handra. Okay, please, time is yours.
Thank you, Bu Indrawari. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be with all of you here today. And this is my opportunity to share with you maybe I can say this is a small reset of me, just a descriptive reset. Can I share the materials? I cannot share. Could you set? Yeah.
Yeah, co-host.
Fajri.
Fajri.
Okay, Mr. Udar have.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm going to a little bit explain about how the government of Indonesia response, fiscal policy response of the Indonesian government to the case of COVID-19 in Indonesia, especially this year. Yeah. Okay. This is just at glance. We see the case of COVID-19 everywhere in the world, and we know at the moment Indonesia is already achieved one of the highest case in the world as well. But in terms of case per million citizen, we see Indonesia is not there yet. But we hope Indonesia will not there. Yeah. You see that Panama is the highest case per million population, and Chile the second, and Spain, which is the at the beginning is the highest case in the world, but now is below the Colombia. And Indonesian case at the moment we have 287,000 cases. Yeah, it is in 30 September 2020, 2 days ago. Yeah, so every day it's already find about 4,000 cases in Indonesia at the moment. So we hope that it can be, I mean, can be managed by the government, the case day by day. Maybe it is difficult for us to reduce the case, but we hope that the case will be can be managed. Even every day we still find the new case of the COVID-19 in Indonesia. Okay, my brief explanation is focused on the government fiscal policy response. Yeah. So let's see. Maybe to start my explanation, I would like to explain about first about Indonesian division of administrative division of Indonesia. Yeah. We see Indonesia has 34 provinces and 408 at the moment. We have 508 regencies and cities, kabupaten and kota. We have 7,160 kecamatan. It is a district, administrative district, yeah. And then close to 75,000 villages, autonomous villages, and 8,000 administrative sub-district, which is we call it kelurahan in Indonesia, yeah. And all of this can be classified into two groups. Yeah, the first is autonomous division, autonomous government, which is the provincial government. Regencies and city are autonomous, and also villages. Village government are autonomous, but different from district and sub-district government, which is only the branches of the highest level of government. And then how the budget flow from the central to villages in Indonesia. State budget, and then go to the local level, provincial level, and regencies, cities, and also goes to villages level. But we know that each level of government also spend directly or direct spending. Yeah. State government, central government also spend directly money through ministries. Local government, provincial government, they also directly spend their budget. And also the villages government also spend their budget. But some of the budget from the state transfer to the provincial and also the regencies and cities, and then part of it also transferred to the villages. So it looks a little bit more complicated, but we can calculate how much money for each level of the government in Indonesia. Okay. So if you want to see how the government responds to the COVID-19, especially this year, 2020, it is easily can be seen from the budget, the state budget in 2000. If you see here, the state revenue, which is in the earlier budget, in the second column budget, that is the budget that designed by the government at the beginning of the year. And then the revised budget is the response of the government to the condition in which the government revised the earlier budget, looking at the condition and then respond to that budget by issuing the new revised budget. And if you look at the difference between budget and the revised budget, so we see that their internal revenue will expected to decline by 25%. It is a quite big decline, yeah, in the budget, in the revenue, estimate revenue in this year because of the COVID-19. So the biggest part of that revenue is from taxes. So the taxes are estimated to decline much higher this year. But on the other hand, the government expanded the services. I mean, they expanded this, increased the expenditure. Even the revenue decreased by 25%, but the government increases the spending by 17%. So you see the government actually following responding to the condition by expansive fiscal policy, by reducing revenue, but also increasing the expenditure. But the consequences of that is the government should increase the deficit. You see the deficit at the beginning of the year estimated only minus 1.76% of the GDP. But then after in the middle of the year, the government revised the deficit into minus 6.34% of the GDP. So you see the government should finance the deficit by increasing the debt. So about 1,220 trillion, yeah? 1,220 trillion debt increase estimate in this year, 2020 alone. So that's a very big increase of the debt of the country. Yeah. So let me go to the next. Yeah, how the government will respond to that. I mean, how the government use the expansive fiscal policy. The first, we see that the government prioritize the budget into the public health and safety, including expenditure for the medical personnel. So the government provides special fund for giving incentive to the medical personnel, and then also ensuring social protection, so safety nets for the community, vulnerable communities, and also providing protection for the business sector. And we see that the government plan to provide fund expenditure for healthcare about 87, and strengthening social safety net about 203.9 trillion, and incentive for the small business, which is about 123.4 trillion, and also increasing the budget for the ministries about 109 and 106, and so on. We see the government providing a priority to address both health system and also economics. So we see that the policy of the government, trying to address both, not only the healthcare, health system, but also the economy, and also strengthening social safety net. So three things that have been addressed, I mean, will be addressed this year through the budget. And how long my time, Bu Indrawari?
The most is 20 minutes.
Okay, so I will have about 5 minutes, yeah?
Right.
Okay, let me give a brief look at the history of Indonesian state condition, revenue. Yeah. So we see that here, if we look at this table, the state internal revenue of Indonesia were actually declining. Yeah. From the history from the 2001 until 2019, you see there is a trend of declining revenue. If you see the total, the first because the non-tax revenue also declined. And non-tax revenue estimated from actually from the gas and oil, and also from the natural resources and tax revenue. We see that and also tend to decline, yeah, from the 2001 and especially from the 2008. If you see here, it is 13.3% of GDP, and then reduced until, and the second, this is the budget, yeah. In 2020, we see that it only is 8.6% of the GDP. And then it is also estimated in 2021 will only be 8.4% of the GDP. And this is the impact of the COVID-19. We see here the reduction of the budget, the revenue, yeah. And in 2021, we'll a little bit recover. And then if you see how the government spend the money, here, this is the central government expenditure, and this is the transfer to the subnational government. The transfer to the subnational government also reduces in line with the reduction of the spending, yeah? Reduction of the revenue. The revenue reduced slowly, and also the spending, the expenditure, the central government, and also the transfer to the subnational government also decreases. But you see here, since 2015, Indonesian government, the central government, start to devolve money to the villages, and it is a small money actually in terms of percentage to the GDP, but it is enough. Yeah, it is at the moment it is considered a big amount of money for the villages in Indonesia. But it is still only 0.43% of the GDP in 2000, and even it is not more than 1% of the GDP. And you see here, this year, 2020 is the first time in Indonesian history since 2001, since the reformasi, it is the first time Indonesian government achieve the deficit minus 6.3. You see, before, the deficit of the budget below the 3% of the GDP. So here, it is the first time of the government to make a policy with 6.3% of the GDP deficit. So this is actually has already break the Indonesian state financing law, which is only 3%. According also, as suggested also by the Maastricht Treaty, not more than 3% of the GDP. The deficit increases, as I said before, and then you see this is the debt services. Debt services calculated ratio interest payment to the state revenue. This is the history at the beginning, and in 2001. The debt services is much higher because at the time our debt is considerably high, and then the government doing the policy by reducing the debt gradually, the debt ratio gradually, and then the service also gradually decreases, the debt services, but now increases again, and it achieved more than 20% of the government revenue go to pay the interest payment in 2021 estimated, yeah. So that will be our burden in the next 5 years maybe. I think I'm not giving a conclusion about this presentation. This is just my brief, my description of the Indonesian condition, how the government respond to the COVID-19 from the fiscal policy side. Yeah? So I think we can interpret by our own, mind, yeah, our own judgment to this fact that I have presented to you. You are free to judge this condition, yeah, and then maybe we can discuss it later. I think that's from me, Bu Indrawari. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hafrizal Handra. He just presented that government respond by fiscal policy. Well, this just respond by fiscal policy side, okay? And then this is actually talking about the economic consequences of the pandemic. Next, we will have another speaker. Our next distinguished speaker is Justin Diokno Sikat, PhD, and then she will be talking about response of government in the Philippines. And please, everyone, notice that she trying to impress everyone by wearing batik today. And just how appreciated she is to be here. So please welcome Miss Justine Diokno Sikat. Time is yours.
Terima kasih, Indrawari. Salamat sore. And good afternoon to everyone. Vice Dean and Rizal, Dr. Hervizal, thank you so much. Very interesting. We have very similar experiences in terms of fiscal policy response. But before I even do that, I'd like to say that I saw the video at the beginning, and your Andalas University is very beautiful, and I hope I get to visit there someday in person. So thank you so much for this honor for letting me speak here. So I'll be presenting with you today the COVID-19 pandemic Philippine public sector response. However, I have a disclaimer. I do not think that we are the ideal country. I was telling Inja earlier, because we are now number 20. We made it to the top 20, 314,000 cases. However, the bright side of this is that I heard from our health experts is that the metric you should look at is the deaths per 100,000. So we're still at 5. That's pretty good, I guess. Considering that we're still addressing the COVID-19 pandemic as everybody else is. So as of October 1, there were 54,294 active COVID-19 cases, which totaled about 314,000. Now, what are my research questions? This is incidentally based on a paper that I wrote for the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, where I'm on secondment right now. From the University of the Philippines. So it's very simple. How did the Philippine public sector respond to the COVID-19 pandemic? What monetary and fiscal policies were implemented? What still needs to be done adapting to the new normal? And the objective overall is to share the Philippine experience. And my outline is very simple. It just follows these questions as well. Now, we have a similar decentralized structure as in the case of Indonesia. Thank you very much, Dr. Hefrisel, for sharing that earlier. We are an archipelago also like Indonesia. We have 7,641 islands. They would joke depending on high tide or low tide. If it's high tide, the islands disappear. If it's low tide, there are more islands. We are a lower middle income economy with a GDP of only about 357 billion in 2019, but that was last year. Now we have experienced 16% contraction second quarter in GDP year on year. So we have adjusted our GDP growth targets for this year to be about 5%, if I'm not mistaken. Our population is only about 106 million, and we have a unitary form of government. So we have one constitution, but we have a decentralization law that has been in effect for the past almost 30 years now. This is our very simple structure. This is the national government, the executive branch. And under that, there are 17 regions, 2 of which are autonomous regions. We have the Cordillera Autonomous Region, and we have the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. This would be similar. I think you have 2 autonomous regions, Aceh and Papua. Is that still the case? So I tried to research a bit. And then under the 17 regions, we have 81 provinces. So this is your province. Our provinces is the largest. So we have a provincial governor. And then we have your cities. I think that's your quota. I hope I got it correct. This is about 145 cities. Some are independent, some are highly urbanized, some are still a part of the province. And this would have an impact on the intergovernmental transfers that we get, the local governments get from the national government. Similar also to what Dr. Hefrisel shared earlier. We have municipalities, which is, I think, I'm not sure if it's equivalent to your regencies, but these are smaller than cities, but bigger than the villages or the barangays, which are 42,000 in number. Now, as shared earlier, the Philippine government structure and the funds for the local governments or the subnational governments, it's similar to what was shared in Indonesia. So the national government collects taxes, and local governments receive 40% of that internal revenue collection for the second preceding fiscal year. So in 2020, we computed the transfers given to local governments based on 2018 revenues. And this is distributed by formula to local governments. But at the same time, local governments also can earn income similar to Indonesia. They have local taxes. So our main sources are real property taxes and local business taxes. But as was shared also earlier, we are expecting both the transfers from the central government to decrease because tax revenues had gone down, as well as local business tax and local real property taxes to go down as well. So that's what we are all preparing for in order to recover from this pandemic. Now, I will share with you briefly the expansionary monetary policy that was implemented, just to give us a complete picture, because the response of the Philippine government also was the entire picture. So the expansionary monetary policy was implemented by our Philippine Central Bank, which is it's an independent monetary policy making body. And it's also called the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And as of today, so this listed here are the monetary tools that the central bank has used so far. So they cut policy rates in several rounds since March, totaling about 175 bips in June 2020. Okay, so they're maintaining the policy rates until now and seeing how the economy will adapt to it. The central bank also reduced the reserve requirement of big banks and gave the incentive to financial institutions that offer loans to micro and small enterprises to use this as your reserve requirement. So they really wanted to engage in expansionary monetary policy to keep interest rates low and to encourage investments. The central bank also lent a total of about $60 billion to the Philippine government in April, and this was repaid completely just last month. And then again, now the central bank will be giving provisional advances. It's similar credit also to the Philippine government in 11.1 billion, in the amount of 11.1 billion US dollars. So this was just approved by our central bank yesterday. The central bank also has always been in favor of encouraging digital and online transactions. So the central bank negotiated waived transfer fees for online transactions. So here we have 2 general kinds, which is the InstaPay and the PesoNet. And this would range from 5 pesos to 50 pesos. So that would be just about $1, less than $1, whenever you make an online transaction. Now, I'll share with you later that there were 2 laws in order to implement fiscal policy in response to the COVID-19. The first law, which was implemented and had lapsed in June, so this was from March to June, is called the Bayanihan Law. And it prohibited charging interest on interest for existing loans. It prohibited from charging penalties, fees, and other charges. Also for credit cards, and there were grace periods implemented to a maximum of almost 3 months when we were under the more intense lockdown back in March to June. So there was accrued interest allowed on these loans, but people had the option not to pay their amortization, and banks were prohibited from charging interest on interest. Now, just also last week, the central bank set a 2% monthly cap on credit card charges. In the Philippines, it's about 3.5%. I'm not sure how high it is in Indonesia, but this is in order to make it easier for those who have to engage in credit to help recover. Now, in my next slide here, I show you the governance and fiscal responses of the Philippine government. So March 8, President Rodrigo Duterte declared a state of public health emergency. And this was one very important proclamation, because what this did was it overrode a lot of other laws. For example, I'll discuss later. In our decentralization law, or the local government code, okay, if a local government wants to use its emergency fund for disasters, it has to declare that there is a state of emergency. But what this did, the presidential proclamation did, is it declared that emergency all over the Philippines so that the COVID response would be immediate. So this covered all local governments in order for them to be able to spend immediately in their response to COVID. Now, after this declaration of public health emergency, the executive branch also asked Congress to enact the Bayanihan Heal as One law to provide funds for COVID-19 responses. So this is similar to what Dr. Heversal mentioned earlier, that part of the budget was realigned. The same thing here in the Philippines. To fund this law, all national government agencies were asked to reduce their budget by 25% for that year, and all of the funds were realigned in order to address the COVID pandemic. Now, what this law also did is that it expedited the procurement process, because of course the government, in practical terms, it would have to buy PPEs, it would have to buy masks, it would have to build infrastructure, and develop laboratories. In the Philippines, though we have an excellent procurement process, sometimes it's very long. So there's a scheduled time. I'm not sure in Indonesia if it's the same, but it's 2 weeks. You have to post the bid, and then you have to wait for someone to give a bid, and so on and so forth. So this law that was enacted, it overrode this particular procurement law so that it would be easier for the Department of Health and for our peace and order agencies to be able to address and to respond immediately for COVID-19. Now, these declarations also allowed the use of the local government development fund to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. So each local government has the mandate that they must spend 20% of their budget every year, or 20% from their transfers given by the national government every year for investment programs. And this is in the law. So what these laws did, and the oversight agencies, were to allow local governments to spend the money in order to respond again to COVID. So these are the very important, intricate governance issues that we had to address. And of course, we had to lock down. So there were community quarantines and lockdowns that were imposed to control the spread of the virus. But we all know it took its toll on the economies. Okay. Now, the national and local governments needed to address both the direct and indirect effects of COVID-19. So what were the direct effects of COVID-19? Of course, those who got sick. We had to identify them. We have to isolate them. We have to contact trace them. We have to monitor and report these patients. And in another issuance of the national government, it said that local governments are the ones responsible for doing all these tasks. So that was a huge responsibility put on the local governments. And then it also activated another existing law, okay, on reporting notifiable diseases. So we have this law in the Philippines that gives the protocol to notify diseases, infectious diseases especially. But the challenge is there was a lot of infrastructure and human capacity challenges, but there was still lagged reporting. So I'll be discussing these issues later on. Now, local governments also had to fast track their investment programs in their response. So I'm not sure in the case of Indonesia, but here in the Philippines, we have mayors and governors who have 3-year terms, and they can serve for up to 3 times. So that's 9 years in total. Okay, but by law, every local government must have a 6-year development plan. Okay, this 6-year development plan must identify what the goal or what the vision mission of that local government is. And it must also recognize the gap or where it is right now. And from that, if you see the difference, the gap between where you want to be as a governor and where you are as a governor right now, you will design investment programs such as roads, bridge, evacuation centers in order to close that gap. And that is what is in our investment programs. This is just a list of infrastructure projects and what have you. But later I'll be showing you that I completed a survey of all municipalities in the Philippines that they have very weak planning processes, weak planning. So that's one of the challenges we have to face moving forward from COVID. Now, what are the indirect effects of COVID that local governments and national government had to address? Of course, there were those who lost their jobs, income, there were businesses that were closed, and we needed to get them social welfare transfers. In the Philippines, we have what you call conditional cash transfer, similar to your Keluaraga Harapan, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That's a conditional cash transfer on education and health. And so that was one of our concerns, how to distribute this to those who needed them the most. So the law that I mentioned earlier, or the budget that was given for the COVID response, which was about 350 billion pesos or 8 billion US dollars, okay? More than half of it was to give social welfare transfers. Okay, so that's where we spent most of our response. Half of it was for social welfare transfers. Only about 12% was for health. And then the others, we also gave assistance to micro and small businesses. We also gave assistance to overseas Filipino workers who were coming back, who were repatriated. Because we have a lot of Filipinos working abroad who lost their jobs in this pandemic. So we brought them home. So we're also giving them social welfare transfers. Now, what were the challenges we faced? Okay, so these were the challenges that we faced, and these are very considerable. First, we have no integrated national citizen information database. From my reading, I learned that Indonesia has some form of national ID. We had that law passed back in 2017, but it was not yet implemented. So this was a big challenge in both identifying the patients and contact tracing, as well as in giving out social welfare assistance. So that was a huge challenge for us. And that resulted in delayed and risky distribution of COVID-19 social welfare transfers. Okay, why? Because local governments also have varied systems. So let me share with you our largest social welfare transfer. It's the conditional cash transfer, similar, as I said earlier, to your Keluarga Harapan. We have a transfer similar to that. Now, the national government agency responsible for that has a list of all of the beneficiaries of the poorest of the poor in the Philippines who should get the transfers. And these transfers are automatically placed into their bank and they can withdraw it through ATM. But the challenge when we distributed the social welfare transfers in the case of the COVID-19 was that this list wasn't integrated. Okay, so we allocated 50% of the budget for 18 million poor households. The thing is, you could get per household by law, you could get about $100 US. Okay, but if you have a beneficiary from a social welfare program that is already existing, like our conditional cash transfer, then you have to deduct that transfer from the COVID transfer. So that was very tedious. I don't know how the social welfare transfers were given in Indonesia, but that was very tedious and it was very risky. So sometimes in some towns, people would line up and be at risk for getting infected with COVID just because we did not have an integrated database nationwide. So that is one of our pushes in reform moving forward from COVID-19. Now, there was also delayed reporting of cases because of the lack of manpower in local governments, the proper information technology database, as well as poor internet connection. So here in the Philippines, less than 50% of the population have access to internet. So it was very challenging. But what was frustrating is that back in 2018, the law on free public access was already passed. So there were laws that were not yet fully implemented that we are pushing for moving forward. In the lack of manpower, here our reporting system in some cases was digital. We would type in the cases and then it would go automatically to the Central Ministry of Health and then it gets reported there. But in our case, sometimes they did it manually. They had to write it down. That's why we lacked manpower in that. I know that Thailand has a very, very good system. Now, local governments also needed to fast-track development programs, but not all investment programs were well drafted. And this is what I mentioned earlier. The investment programs or the development projects for local governments, only about 31% of our municipalities had updated investment programs. So that means that they really haven't really thought well, in some cases, about what programs to invest. So moving forward in the recovery, response and recovery to COVID-19, we're pushing that they have to get their plans strategically placed in order to help bounce back from the pandemic. Now, moving forward, of course, we have to control the spread of the virus. That's first and foremost. We have to jumpstart the economy because community quarantines and lockdowns took its toll on the economy, with second quarter contraction in GDP of 16% year on year. So that's pretty bad. And we also have to protect the poor. We have to continue the social welfare transfers that we have. A colleague of mine, Albert, projects that poverty incidence could increase to 18.2% if there is only a 10% reduction in incomes in the Philippines. But if it's more than that, poverty incidence could be higher. And as you can see here, Philippine poverty incidence has decreased considerably since 2009 to 16.6% 2 years ago. Now we are anticipating, because of the pandemic, this will also happen, which is why we are in the process now of drafting our 2021 national budget. And it's all about pump priming the economy and spending on infrastructure. Now, moving forward in the new economy, well, this is more for our policymakers. We need the immediate implementation of the national ID system. And we have to consider linking it to existing social protection systems. I'm not sure if in Indonesia the same applies, if your national ID is linked to your social protection systems. But this would be ideal if we want to really get to the poor at the soonest possible time. Now we need to build trust in data sharing and information and communications technology with information campaigns and consultations. Here in the Philippines, there is still distrust in data sharing and in online transactions. So policymakers should be able to allay fears for this. As I mentioned earlier several times, we need to improve planning and investment programming. It has to be strategic. Now is the time to be strategic if we want to have a V-shaped recovery. That is the plan of the economic managers here in the Philippines. We're hoping for a V-shaped economy recovery. And we also have to expedite the construction of necessary information and communications technology infrastructure for the preceding recommendations to happen. So I guess that ends my presentation. Terima kasih.
Thank you so much, Dr. Justine, for a very nice presentation. Here, I think we have the same problem. Some of your presentation remind me of the same problem in Indonesia and local government, but we do have what we call it national ID. But to identify them for transfer program, we still have a problem because we have to, this is I think we share the same problem with the Philippines. And Dr. Justin also shared us some of the monetary response. We actually do have also some monetary policy, but unfortunately we didn't have any speaker to talk about this today. And then the challenge that you have, maybe it will open a discussion for later on. And thank you again, Justine. And then let's move to the last presenter, last speaker today. We want to find out how government respond in Thailand. Please welcome Ms. Rowie. Time is yours.
Ya, thank you. Ibu gimana sharing apa PowerPoint-nya, Bu?
Share.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Come on, Gauri.
Can you see me on my PowerPoint?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum. Selamat siang atau selamat sore ya. Assalamualaikum to Professor and my love Ibu Indrawari. I am Rowie. And hello to everyone, all participants. I'm Rowiah Asing Brame, a PhD student at Andalas University. I am a representative. I'm a representative from Thailand, and I'm really glad to be a part of this seminar. As we know, many countries are currently suffer to the COVID-19 pandemic, and one those countries in Thailand, this outbreak has changed a lot to the world life and economy. However, the current situation in Thailand is on a well control, alhamdulillah. As you can see the graph here. Sorry. Okay. As you can see the graph here, the number of cumulative COVID-19 cases in Thailand look rapidly increase since 21st March. These are they are 3,425 cases. However, most of patients, or 95% of them, recovered, and only 2% died from this case. After a long time of quarantine, or now we can spend our life as usual. I mean, we can go to work, we can go to school, but we still have to wear masks all the time we go out. We still need the social distancing also. Even we are success on the COVID prevention, this situation has a great impact on Thailand's economy. Okay. As you can see that that graph next, Thailand GDP growth. Yeah, sorry. According to the COVID-19 outbreak, Thailand's GDP contract by 5.3% in 2020. From those problems, here are the act of Thailand government on compensation measure to unemployed and agriculture. Okay. It is Prime Minister of Thailand, Prayut Chan-o-cha. Look at this. I will talk topic by topic. The first, monetary policy. Monetary policy in Thailand. The policy rate has been reduced the interest from 1.25 to 0.60% during this situation. Is here like lithium example. Okay, TMB no payment for 3 months for interest and principal. Pay interest for 6 months, only no principal in installment. Okay. Or Bangkok Bank have to join that program. Pay interest for pay payment for 24 months. I'm sorry. I'm very excited. I'm sorry. Okay. Monetary policy and fiscal policy. Fiscal policy, I want to talk about compensation management. Since the pandemic is in the March, the government approved the first project. Under the project name together, we stand together by providing 5,000 baht to the unemployed. 3 months later, the new policy from the government has approved another 1,000 million baht for the new for compensation project, which are the first government welfare. Those people who already have the government welfare card, they will get 100 baht for 3 months. Second project is for those who unsuccessful register in the under project name we stand together. We stand together project or raw meeting can in talent language. Okay. And the third is project for vulnerable groups such as newborn, disabled person, elder persons, subsidy, and the last agriculturist compensation project. Okay.แล้วก็มันthis okay cooperation which do have an cooperation of government and citizens. This can drive us to the success of prevention the pandemic. I'm sorry for the cute PowerPoint because I don't want to make everything look serious. Sorry. Okay, so when we are suffered with the economics problem,
kita mau menggunakan yang mana?
Maaf Pak, saya dengar suara terganggu.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. Kami mensilakan. Okay, even also with the economics problem, we do it to save the citizen life. Thank you from Thailand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rowie, for the presentation. So we have now three different response from the government in three different countries. But, maybe what I can say is there are a few things in common. The first thing is for all these three countries, there are contraction of the economy. The national income is decreasing, and then we experience that. Philippines experienced that, and then I think Thailand experienced that because due to decreasing in the tax revenues and other things, slowdown of the economy. And then secondly, most government pandemic either by both by fiscal policy and by monetary policy. One form of the fiscal policy here is aiming to help the poorer, and maybe the poorer and the poorest is social transfer program. But what is interesting is Philippines have two different kind of transfer program. Well, I'm not sure if Indonesia have those kind, because they also thinking about their citizen who is working abroad now. They are coming back from abroad, and they need help from the government. Maybe we should think the same way, because we have also plenty of worker working outside of the country, and then they probably going home or go home because of there is no job outside of the country. And then there are also some monetary policy. Monetary policy controlling interest rate, and then you have like interest rate cap on credit card, and then also some restructuring of the credit for the micro businesses. We do have that policy also. And then maybe what the difference is, we don't have lockdown. Yeah, but Philippines have a lockdown. We don't have. We sort of lockdown, but with different degrees. Yeah, we call it the SBB, but it's not really lockdown. And I'm not sure if Thailand has lockdown, but I don't get from your presentation, Roy. But maybe we can open questions from our participant today, because these three topic it's very interesting for opening any question. So what will be the how we can do the discussion, Mr. Hoss, Mr. Muharja, how we can do the discussion?
Please, Ms. Ms. Indrawari to handle for discussion.
All right. So, okay. For those who have any question, we can please write down in the chat. Oh, okay. Pak Karimi, Professor Karimi. Okay. Do you have something to ask or something to say?
Mr. Udan have something to ask Ms.
Indrawari, before, I'm very sorry because I have to leave earlier this seminar, because we will meet with the Ministry of Education regarding our proposal of PTNBH. So can you give me just some 5 minutes to comment, to a little bit explain more, maybe to respond also to Dr. Justin, Bu Indrawari?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, very interesting comparison between Indonesia and Philippines actually, and we have so many similarities in terms of policy, I suppose. Also in terms of government, because we are the same unitary government actually. So one law for for the country, but in terms of division, subnational government division, maybe in Indonesia we have.
Itu berikut visualisasi kemasannya.
So in Indonesia, we have divided our region, our area into provincial first, and then the province will be divided into cities or regencies. So basically, cities and regencies are the same level in Indonesia, but actually the area of province in Indonesia is divided. The whole province are divided. So every regencies have their own border with another regencies. And then that is the second level of autonomous government in Indonesia. And then the third level is villages. And also basically the regencies are divided into villages, village government. So Indonesian area is divided actually to villages and also sub districts, which is not autonomous government. So in terms of policies, we also have so many, social security programs. As you mentioned before, we also have conditional cash transfer, which is giving to the education sector and also to health sector. But also we have, at the moment, in order to respond to the COVID, so the government, the central government also providing cash transfer to the citizens, directly to the citizens. So 3 levels of government actually in Indonesia, 4 levels actually, for providing social transfer, cash transfer. Central government providing cash transfer to the people, provincial government also providing, regencies and cities government also providing, and even the village government also providing cash transfer. But fortunately, because we have ID, in national ID number, so each level, there is no, we can say that very low cases that this transfer is given to the same people. So basically, if you already receive the transfer from the central government, you will never receive the transfer from the provincial government. You will never receive the cash transfer from the regency government. And you will never also receive the transfer also from the village government. So there is a harmonization in terms of cash transfer in Indonesia. But the problem is sometimes it is, the time is not the same. Central government usually transfer first and then the provincial government followed it, and then the regency's government followed it, and then at the end the village government. So sometimes it is a kind of a problem in our country because there is no harmonization in the time of transfer, and some regencies are transferred late. So the response to the COVID, especially in terms of social security transfers, are not the same in every region. They are different. Even in Padang City, in where we live, so the government, central government, Padang City government late respond to transfer, the cash transfer to the people. So in terms of poverty, at the moment, Indonesian poverty incidence is about 9.9% basically, already below the 10%. But I suppose because of this kind of COVID, the number is increasing. Maybe increasing because it's not only the poor people have been given the transfer, but also those who are in a vulnerable condition. So basically the transfer is going to about 40% of the people in Indonesia at the moment. So it's a big amount of transfer. And in terms of, if we compare to Philippines, the amount of the cash transfer, the social security program in Indonesia is double. Yeah, if you have about 8 billion, we have more than, we have about 16 billion, I suppose. So it's a big amount of cash transfer in Indonesia at the moment. So that's my a little bit, just comparison. Yeah, many other comparison can also be made in terms of monetary policy. I think we have the same monetary policy response also. Yeah, but in terms of budget, government of Indonesia actually increasing the deficit, but the response to that, in order to fulfill the deficit, the government issue the bond, but the central bank can buy the bond if in case the market cannot absorb the bond. So that's the coordination between monetary and fiscal policy in Indonesia. I think that's Bu Indrawari. Maybe I'm very sorry to leave the discussion earlier because this is also for the university actually. So the Pak Rector has already waiting for me in the room. Okay, Bu Indrawari, thank you so much to everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Hefferson.
Thank you, Dr. Hefrizal. So that's remind me, Justine, to our macro textbook, coordination failure for the transfer.
Absolutely. That's All right. So I hope we can learn from, we had our conference at our office just 2 weeks ago, and we're really pushing for the national ID. And the ideal is that national ID system be linked to our conditional cash transfer program and also our social pension program. We have a social pension program for senior citizens. So those are the two. So starting in October 9, at least I think the government heard us already. Starting October 9, we will be implementing the pre-registration already for the national ID. So they fast-tracked it and they put the amount of budget needed to implement the national ID for next year. So we're happy about that. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Well, it reminded me that the controversy started since I was there about the national ID. Yeah, but didn't push through. Right. Yeah. Okay. Maybe for the discussion, let have three person for our first session. Instead of doing chat room, maybe you can raise your hand and then speak directly, since this is also a opportunity to say something in English. All right, I heard Pak Safruddin Karimi. Professor Karimi, are you still there? Professor Karimi? Professor Karimi? Oh.
Yes, I'm still here.
Sir, do you have something to discuss or to ask?
Very happy to hear from
Okay, please go ahead, sir. Hello, hello, Pa.
I was in the Philippines in 1980s. I was a student at School of Economics.
Yeah, Justin, for your information, he graduated from the School of Economics too. Okay, go ahead, sir. Sir?
I think he's expelled up.
Yeah, his voice breaking up, so probably because of the internet connection.
Yeah.
All right. All right. We will wait for Professor Karimi to show up again, and then maybe is there anyone to ask questions to any of our presenter today? Please raise your hand. Anyone? Or if you don't want to say something, maybe you can write down in the chat room so I can read it for anyone who is going to ask question, please.
I can ask question, Miss Dr. Idawari.
No, I didn't see any question yet.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Pak Fashdin.
Yeah, all the presentation are very interesting. How each country overcome the impact, the negative impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, I saw Philippines took like monetary and fiscal policy simultaneously, right? Indonesia seems to be more on fiscal policy, but it is backed up by monetary authority. And the Thailand is also very interesting because they already in the flat curve, okay, because they can control the COVID-19 what's called a pandemic. Now, if we think about the basic introduction to macroeconomics, right? So here in this pandemic situation, we have a simultaneous shock, a demand shock and also supply shock at the same time. So therefore, we don't have that kind of high inflation, or our interest rate is not going or not fluctuate so much, because both curve are shifted to the left. Okay. And of course, to respond to that shock, right? So we need like expansionary fiscal policy, like giving the poor cash transfer, and also expansionary monetary policy, which is lowering the interest rate. But special for this pandemic, as many experts say, we have another shock, which is uncertainty. Okay, because of the pandemic, and people, even though they have money, they don't go to buy to the store because they're afraid of being infected. Also, if you they don't want to go to work, okay, because they don't feel safe in the workplace. Okay, that's uncertainty shock. So it's like what do you call it? So yeah, we call it uncertainty, right? Because people don't feel safe to buy things, to go to work, to go to school, and buy, and so on and so forth. So I would like to have Justin to respond to this. Right? Is there any differentiation of policy in the Philippines to to overcome this demand shock supply shocks, and uncertainty shocks, right? So for this uncertainty shock, it's very unique because what we need is not cash transfer. You know, we call it, if you do cash transfer while people don't feel safe, it's look like, you know, pouring the water to the sea. It's less effective, or even they don't have ineffective, completely ineffective. So what we need is usually tracing, and testing, right? So to overcome this uncertainty shock. So how do Philippines, you know, handle with these challenges? Go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Dean, for that question. And I don't know if I have an exact answer or if we isolate it that way, but you are correct. There's both supply shock and there's demand shock. And also with basic macroeconomics, right? We know that aggregate demand and Keynesian policy, we would have government spend or consumer spend. But if the consumers do not want to spend physically, that's why we are promoting online transactions. I think that's why here there was a 400% increase, the central bank reported, 400% increase in online purchases consumption. So we're adjusting to that. In terms of consumer, we're also, I know for a fact that the administration promised in next year's budget, a lot of spending will, of course, be for the COVID-19 response, for social welfare, but also will continue our build infrastructure program. Because the Duterte administration, when he sat, he was promoting big infrastructure programs because the largest fiscal multiplier is with construction programs. So now, if government spends in terms of construction, that should create incomes among those who are in the construction business and the suppliers and so on and so forth. There's a multiplier. But again, begs the question you said earlier, how will you get them to the market? That's why they're promoting digital online transactions and shopping. So that's how they're trying to address it. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. I think Professor Karimi sent the question directly to you. Maybe you can answer it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Indrawari. Yes, he sent me a message. Nice to meet you, Professor Karimi. You're from the School of Economics. You graduated 1986. So that was Cory Aquino when the Marcos regime was, the Marcos dictatorship ended. I think if it's 1986.
I think he recognized your dad.
Okay. Benjo. Okay.
I can hear you now. I'm sorry because my internet was disconnected.
Oh, thank you, Professor. Nice to meet you.
She is the doctor Ben Diokno, Dr. Ben Diokno.
Dr. Professor Diokno was my student, was my teacher in public economics.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I teach public economics too, sir. Nice to meet you.
Okay, good.
Yes, yes. And your questions, Professor? Yeah, Doctor?
I would like to know how the economists in the Philippines, the economists in the government, the economists in the academic, do they have different idea about the opening the economies during the lockdown, after the lockdown? And how do you put the health expert? Do you listen to them? Like in the US, you have Fauci, for example, you know. What about in the Philippines? Do you give them the chance to talk about what we need to do during this COVID period, this pandemic crisis?
Yes.
Do we have the same idea between economists in the government and the economists in the universities, you know? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Karimi, for that question. And that's very difficult to answer, but I guess you would know the answer. Yes, they both, actually, if you talk to economists in the academic, they had a different impression on how to go about the policy in the School of Economics in terms of monetary policy. But we created an interagency task force in the case of the Philippines in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And there were technical working groups. And part of the technical working groups, let's say for the health problem was included economists and health experts. So there were professors from the University of the Philippines, Manila PGH, Philippine General Hospital, who were advising, just like the U.S. But even within that interagency task force, there were challenges when to open up and for how long to keep it closed. So it's not just the economists that had different perspectives, but also the politicians. I know for a fact that in the beginning, after the lockdown, in March until April, some economists in that task force already wanted to open up the economy, but there were some who didn't want. So you're right, there's absolutely no agreement, but they eventually decided to open up. And as you know, we changed our economic and planning secretary during the pandemic. So there were issues there also. Thank you. This is the.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone, please? If you don't want to say something or you want to raise
Yes,
your
I
hand.
have question.
Okay, go ahead. Mr. Dodi Samsudin.
Okay, I have a question for Miss Justin and Miss Rowie. What policies will be implemented in Thailand or the Philippines regarding improving the economy for the next year, where the social benefit the citizen in order to create market demand? Okay.
Okay. Can you repeat, please?
Okay. What policies will be implemented in Thailand or the Philippines regarding improving the economy for the next year, whether social benefit to citizens in order to create market demand?
Okay. Did you get Justine?
Yes,
Did you
yes.
get
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Dodi Samsudin. What policies? Well, we enacted recently for this year another law, which is Recover as One. It's also going to get some of the current national budget of the Philippines for 2020. And there will be social welfare transfers still prioritized there, as well as transfers to micro and small medium enterprises. There we'll still have expansionary monetary policy. And as I mentioned earlier, for next year, the budget is actually really geared towards, of course, social welfare transfers, giving aid to those who lost their jobs, who lost their business, but also for infrastructure spending. That is where I think we are hoping most of the boost in the economy will come from. It is just really learning to, attain what Thailand attained, that they can already go out, go back to school, go back to work. So we have our construction projects in the Philippines stopped for some time because we had the largest infrastructure spending during this past 3 years. And it all came to a halt because of the COVID pandemic. But that's still where they're going to be investing a lot in. Thank you.
Thank you, Justine. Maybe do you want something to share? What happened in Thailand, Rory? You're still muted.
Okay, thank you. Thailand after COVID-19 prepared the economy's perspective. Part one, the impact of the economy and the Thai labor market. Let's look at how the heavily affected industries must go forward when the industry recovers. From the economist's perspective, that very crisis has a chance, but not every business has chance. must look at what business can grow and are less affected by COVID. There is a from the one result I have to read this. Yesterday maybe I found that the three groups are: one, communication business group; two, retail group; and three, food beverage group must be don't watch online and offline constantly, because people are getting used to fast and easy online ordering. I think maybe enough for my answer. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Roy. Yeah. All right. So let's have two more questions, and then we can end this session. Who is going to have any other question? All right. I do have a question in Indonesia, so I have to translate it to any of the speakers. All right. What is the role of the internal auditor, okay, and the external, and also the role of the risk management, okay, done by the government and the academe, okay, and in order to solve for this pandemic in the Philippines and in Thailand. Did you get my questions? Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
shall I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Roy, yes. So what is the role of the internal and external auditor? And what is the role of risk management in the academe and in government in recovery? Is that correct? Did I get the question correct? Yeah. Okay. So I'm not familiar with do you mean internal auditor, the auditor of the public funds? Is that what is meant? Yeah. So we have a commission on audit, and of course, all of the funds in the budget that was spent by the national and local governments have to go through the process of auditing. Right now, there was an existent law for 2020, but then a budget for 2020, but we created two new laws using the money from the budget in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And in those, the president must report to us regularly what he's spending the money on. So that is actually in my full paper. That's why I was able to share that 50% of the first law in COVID response went to social welfare transfers. Only 12% went to health. There were transfers, about 9% that went to small, medium enterprises. But then, of course, it's the job of the Commission on Audit to check if in fact the funds went to where they said they went, and also if the procurement was legal, above board, if it passed their standards. So that's the role to check. Now, with regard to risk management in the academe and the government, as I shared earlier, so we created an interagency task force that included both the private sector, government, and as well as the academe for different areas. So there is also we have an office of civil defense. Under that, we have our disaster risk reduction and management structure, and there were working groups corrected. So they are being consulted. It's a big web of consultations, of course, because this is a huge unprecedented pandemic. So there are, but I'm not really familiar with how they would work. I know that my colleagues would sometimes give advice. So we were asked to write a paper, and they would just share it with the task force, and then they would decide based on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Do you have something to say, Roy?
Okay, thank you for your question. That's some article I have to I read yesterday by Dr. Yandong. By Dr. Yandong said that should like to try to learn from different countries in a crisis. You can see that they are some similar pattern. Like Asia, the server found that consumer have a higher demand for a certain type of FMCG product of daily use. Resetting is stopping of good due to consumables shortage. If the business sector must stop production, the additional product production include personnel, engine product 48%, head product, and supplement for 45%, of household cleaning product for 40%, including the behavior of people from the COVID situation, causing 22% of online shopping, 42% using video streaming service, and 30% of ordering food. Maybe. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Roy. Yeah, I do have a question here from Dr. Taufik. Yeah, it's addressed to Dr. Justine. Given the budget revision in Indonesia due to COVID-19, shown by SIV in additional spending to health, social safety, etc., how does this spending change compared to public spending in infrastructure?
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to think of how to answer the question. So in Indonesia, there was also a budget revision similar to the Philippines, right? And we changed our priority spending. For the budget revision for this year, it was really on health and safety. Now, for next year, we'll still be spending on that, but we will be spending also on infrastructure to help the economy recover. I don't know if that's the correct answer, but we will still be prioritizing, of course, the response but also the recovery from the pandemic. As you know, some studies show the fiscal multiplier is largest, especially with governments. Yes, is he here? Does he want to ask? Hello, sir?
No, go ahead, listening.
Okay, so we will of course be prioritizing. We will still be spending on social welfare and health, but we need to, I think that's the push of the government. We need to spend on infrastructure in order for the economy to recover. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that's there is nothing, no one wants to ask questions anymore, and I didn't see it on the chat room as well. Maybe
I'm sorry, I forgot to share.
Okay.
Masih ada waktu, Bu. So, I forgot to share my experience about karantina kemarin.
Oh, all right. Oh, yeah, quarantine. Yeah, all right. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And I forgot to share about lockdown also in my country.
So there is a lockdown.
Okay. Actually, as you know, we have a strong policy on lockdown countries. When they are foreigners come to Thailand, they have to go to the state quarantine for 14 days. Even Chinese that come back from abroad, they also have to quarantine at the area that government prepared. As me myself have the experience from quarantine, and I can say that the progress of checking the risk people are very strong. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Do you have something to say?
Yeah. There's one question here from Dr. Karimi again. What about the production of vaccine in the Philippines? I do not know that we are waiting for, I don't know if it would be Russia or China or who the front, or the US, who the front runners are. But we're also coordinating with COVAX. I think that's the global authority on vaccines. So our Department of Health is coordinating with COVAX also to fall in line, of course, for a vaccine. So I don't think we would be able to produce one ourselves. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Because in Indonesia, what I want to ask, in Indonesia, one company, pharmaceutical company, has announced that they have finished the vaccines and they will sell 3 million rupiah a tablet.
How much?
Oh, wow.
3 million rupiah a tablet.
Oh, that costs you a fortune.
That's very expensive. Yes.
I read from the newspaper today, 3 million rupiah a tablet. They will make a big profit.
Yeah, that's very expensive.
Okay, thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you, Dr. Karim.
All right. Thank you, Justine, and thank you, Roy. But I will wrap up. If there is no other questions.
For
I
Indah.
have one more questions. Yeah, from Ms. Batik Srifani. Well, she is one of our colleagues. She want to address the question to Justine, Dr. Justine. Based on your explanation, that in the Philippines, still many people lack access to the internet connection. How the government respond to this matter, especially for the education sector?
That's a very good question. Thank you very much for that question. And we've been worrying about it. In the Philippines, basic education starts in June, but our college starts in August, September. We have different schedules. But for this year, we kept postponing. I think we're still trying to figure out in terms of public education. Private schools do have. Some private schools have opened up, especially at the tertiary level. My son, he's in med school, so he's doing online schooling. But then, of course, there are so many in the basic public education system that do not have access. So they're trying to figure out what they do have access is to transistor radios or to, televisions. And one of the other reforms that was being pushed by the oversight committees of local governments here in the Philippines, the Department of Local Government, the Interior and Local Government, is for local governments to start fast-tracking the approval of cell sites. Because apparently the bottleneck here is that a lot of local governments do not want cell sites to be built, cellular sites to be built in their areas. So the president's pushing for approval, and that is being fast-tracked right now. So we hope that would address the education sector. It's October that they will be opening, and I'm still not yet up to speed when will they be or how will they be doing it. So thank you, but they're trying to figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have the same problem here. How to make everyone have an easy access for the internet, especially since everyone has to learn have to study by doing online. Right. Okay. We don't have any other questions. I think we have a very interesting talk this afternoon, and thank you so much, Justine. I'm very grateful that you are able to make it today, and it's a long time. And then even though I just see you virtually, but it's really nice. And then Tina is here too, and thank you, Rowie, for a nice presentation. Okay, maybe if I can just want to say something about this talk. It is hard to generalize about any one country will do in response to this pandemic, but although we have one thing in common, that we follow similar of lockdowns, right? With differing level of enforcement, all right? And one thing is universal: when such crisis happening, people turn to government to act, and they often have a very high expectation. That's why we have some problem here, because government also have some limitation in their resources, and they have limitation in this manpower. So, but government trying to do their best in terms of economic to provide a healthcare system and then educational system during this pandemic. All right, if we don't have any question, thank you for everyone for joining today. I'm very grateful that everyone to be able to make it even until the last minute. We are really appreciate that. And then we hope that we can see you again in another series of the seminar. I'm returning this to the host, Dr. Muharja.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Indrawari, PhD, and our speakers today. Thanks for the Mr. Hafrizal Handra, Justin, PhD. You have explained about the COVID-19 and government response in Philippines, in Indonesia, and then thank you very much, Ms. Owi. Thank you very much. You have explained about the COVID-19 and government response in Thailand. And then for all participants in this seminar, thank you very much for your coming. I give you an announcement for all participants. Sorry, we have a technical problem. Have any technical problem about the administrator? Please your re-entry a new attendance list again for our administration for this seminar, such as for the certificate. Next, we send the certificate to your email. I'm sorry. This problem. I think it's enough for me to. I think it's enough for me to handling this event. If I make mistake when I say my speak topic, I also apologize. I will say goodbye for all. See you later. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam.
wabarakatuh.
Maybe we ask.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sorry, Dr. Raja, maybe we ask for a closing remark from our Vice Dean.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Please, Mr. Faisdin, give the closing remark for our seminar.
Yeah, we the need. He has to put it.
Oh, thank you very much. There is no opening remark. I would say thank you very much, Justin. That's very interesting, and Rowi, and also Pak Udan tadi already left, and also for everyone. I've seen my friends here, my senior, my lecturers, and also my students. So all over, and also my friend from Aceh, ada Pak Odi, and all of you. Thank you very much, and have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Terima kasih. Thank you for the
Terima kasih.
honor.
Thank you.
Bye,
Sorry,
Indra.
Okay, thank you
Let's
very much,
chat.
Miss.
Bye-bye. Bye, Tina.
Lagi
Thank you.
Pak,
Thank you.
fotonya Pak.
Okay. Okay, we take in. Please, you open your video, your camera for the take together.
All right. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Picture taking.
Okay.
This is the very important moment.
Okay, come on, open the camera. Mr. Dodi, Meldy, Victor, come on.
Boleh Wak Kak. Dah.
Okay, right. Okay, one, two, three. Okay, right. Thank you very much.
Mana hasilnya?
Bye, Justin.
Okay, bye, Indra. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you next time, Miss Justin.
I'll visit you there when it's. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I give the announcement in bahasa. Ya. Oke, Bapak-bapak dan Ibu-ibu, tadi ada problem di administrasi attendance list. Silakan di re-entry lagi absensinya untuk mendapatkan sertifikatnya. Silakan. Bagi yang belum itu sudah dikasih link barunya.
Terima
Silakan.
kasih ya Bapak-Bapak dan Ibu yang sudah hadir pada hari ini. Mudah-mudahan kita ketemu lagi dalam series berikutnya.
Amin.
Mudah-mudahan akan ada lagi.
Insyaallah.
Stay tune.
Oke, silakan Bapak Ibu diisi kembali apa absensinya, silakan diisi. Nanti kami akan kirimkan via email yang sudah dicantumkan di absensi.
Terima kasih Ibu Indrawati.
Indrawari Pak.
Pak Fajri.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Oldi.
Saya dari Samratulangi, Nusa Samratulangi Manado.
Wah, sama dengan
Pak Robert ya Pak.
Ya.
Wali Wangko, Dr. ES.
Ya betul. Ya,
itu
udah.
tuh kakak kelas saya itu di.
Oh iya.
Salam
program studi Magister Ilmu Ekonomi sekarang.
Oke, siap. Salam.
Ya, makasih Pak Fajri.
Ya, sama-sama Pak.
Ya.
Sama-sama. Nah, yang kedua dari itu Pak Robert Pak.
Pak Robert. Oh iya, di Unima Bu.
Iya.
Di Unima dia.
Cuman itu yang saya kenal Pak.
Iya. Kami sama-sama pengurus ISE Manado.
Iya.
Saya wakil ketua, Pak Robert sekretaris.
Ya, salam ya Pak ya.
Ya, salam. Nanti saya sampaikan Ibu Indrawari ya. Terima kasih. Ya.
Sama-sama Pak udah hadir.
Ya.
Bapak yang dari Pulau Warma.
Bu En.
Iya. Saya live dulu ya.
Ya, mari Pak.
Siap.
Ya.
Nanti diundang lagi nanti kalau ada kesempatan.
Ya. Terima kasih Pak Fajri. Pak Fajri.
Ya, sama-sama.
Mantap. Luar biasa.
Nah, yang dari Mula Warman siapa tadi ada siapa? Halo. Silakan Bapak Ibu diisi absennya, jangan lupa nanti untuk kebutuhan sertifikatnya. Oke, terima kasih semuanya, Ibu Indrawari, makasih Pak Wadek, terima kasih ya, Rowi, terima kasih, dan Bapak Ibu pesertanya dan tim.
Terima kasih Pak Wadek.
Mantap ya. Nanti kepada ya.
Saya tunggu yang berikutnya seminar seriesnya Pak Wadek.
Siap, Pak.
Ada lagi Pak, akan ada lagi. Pasti akan ada lagi. Ya, mari Pak. Makasih Pak.
Ini orang Kansas nih.
Oh ya, ini orang Indiana.
Indiana, I never been there.
Tapi ketemunya di ENU ya Pak ya?
Ya, ENU 2 tahun.
Ya, nanti kalau pandemi kita ketemuan Pak di Aceh Pak.
Ya, insya Allah.
Insya Allah Pak. Saya juga kepingin ke.
Tadi bule Pak namanya.
Ya Pak?
Tadi saya pikir orang Barat namanya.
Oh, orang Barat, bagian Barat Indonesia Bu.
Mejinya ini.
Aduh.
Beliau ini anak Pak Rektor Unsia dulunya, kawannya Pak Safrizal.
Oh, Pak Dayan ya?
Ya.
Iya benar.
Pak Dayan.
Benar Pak.
Prof Dayan Daud.
Iya benar. Sudah lama saya sama Pak Wadek, sudah 20 tahun ya Pak ya?
Tahun 2001.
Ya, 20 tahun lah, 19 20 tahun.
Ya.
Di mana?
Face to face ya,
di NU Pak ya? Di NU Pak ya?
Di NU dulu Pak. Ya, kami sama-sama di NU dulu.
Berarti sama Pak Katib juga ya Pak Katib?
Oh ya, Katib Basi, Dede
Basi.
Iya. Mantan Menkyu ya Pak Wadek ya.
Ya.
Mantan Menkyu kita. Kemarin itu ada ikut Indonesian Update Pak Wadek.
Yang mana?
Indonesian Update kan dia bisa ikut email grupnya, nanti kadang-kadang mereka ada acara juga.
Iya.
Itu ada juga masalah COVID juga dari World Bank masalah. Menarik juga lah. Tapi luar biasa sekali lah nih Universitas Andalas. Saya apresiasi sekali Pak Wadek, Pak Fajri, Bu Indra, luar biasa sekali. mohon nanti kalau saya ada lagi saya diundang.
Oke,
Nah, nanti di saat ada kita juga diundang, Pak.
Oh ya, amin
Nah,
amin Bu, insyaallah.
mungkin Pak Taufik mungkin pada sesi berikutnya Pak Taufik harus tampil juga di.
Oh, nanti kita cari topik dulu Bu. Pak. Insyaallah Pak. Tapi saya nggak bisa mendahului Pak Wadek dulu. Oke, izin Pak, saya ada kebetulan.
Siap,
Pak
Pak.
Taufik, ya lah. Apa lagi?
Pak, ya, assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. Ada Dr. Muhammad. Halo Pak Muhammad. Halo Pak Wirahadi. Terima kasih Pak Wirahadi.
Ya, sama-sama Prof. Fajri.
Terima kasih banyak. Ya, Ibu Indah, kemudian Ibu Dila. Ibu Dila, terima kasih. Ibu Indah ya.
Bu Yanti.
Ya, Ibu Senat, terima kasih Bu.
Sukses selalu, Bu Indrawari. Tadi siapa tuh?
Laksmi, diam-diam Bu Laksmi tuh.
Ibu Laksmi.
Pulang Bu Laksmi.
Oh Bu Ai, kok ditampik Bu Ai? Di tempat Bu Ai kantornya.
Oke, ya Bu, makasih banyak Bu. Permisi dulu. Ya Bu.
Oke.
Oke.
Ya.